I'm Beth Schaefer, the director of the Institute for Professional Development here at Metro State University. And even though I have introduced written down on my notes, I skip over it anyway. I am pleased to have Kit Shelton back with me today from the DHS, and we will say a little bit more about her in just a minute. So you are in Business Architecture 201 Series 2 today. Let me find my buttons. There we go. Kit and I met, well, I guess we've met several places, but one of the places we got to know each other best was through the MinGov Business Architecture Community of Practice. This is a free group to belong to, and it's open to any employee of a city, county, or state agency in Minnesota that is doing business architecture or attempting to do business architecture in their role. They don't have to be a business architecture to join. If you're interested, I think one of the easiest ways is to simply email me your interest, and I will pass it along to the group leader, and she will start sending you invites to our mostly monthly conversations. And I've found them to be really helpful. So if you are a Minnesota public sector employee working on these challenging issues, please join the group. The other thing I want to spend a little bit of time on today is many of you have been asking about our online business architect certificate training course. It will be starting again this January. So this training is not, as we say in the business, asynchronous, or in the old days when we called it independent study, where you went on and did the stuff and got the next module. This is actually a cohort experience. So you meet at scheduled times to learn about the foundations of business architecture. We go through the business model canvas through the course. There are 15 sessions from 5 to 8 p.m. Central Time. Because it's continuing education, very little homework. At the end of the part one, we do a case study. So you might have an hour of homework with that. And then at the end of part two, we do another more intensive case study. And depending on your group's progress, you might do 2 or 3 hours of homework over a 3-week period of time. So there's not a lot of, other than attending the course itself, there's not a lot of outside work. Try to get 2 other colleagues to go with you, because there is a discount for organizations if you register 3 or more people into the course. It will start January 16th and run on most, I think it's Mondays and Thursdays, could be, I don't know, but it's mostly 2 nights a week through March 21st. Registration will open November 1st, and I am going to put a link in the chat for you in case you're interested in taking a look. So just a moment while I'm moving my mouse around. There. All right. So that takes you to the website page, so you can look through all this information at your leisure. So registration opens November 1st. The early bird rate will run through December 10, and then you can register through January 7 or until the class is filled. We cap out at 20 people. And then you can see we call it the corporate discount, but it could be an organization. You don't have to be in corporate. And that is also good off the early bird rate as well, if you get your people all registered in time. So I think, yes, that's the end of mine. I'm going to stop sharing. And while Kit gets set up with hers, I'm going to do a quick introduction. Kit was with us a couple months ago to do part 1 for this series. She's a business architecture for DHS, the Department of Human Services here in the state of Minnesota. And she's collaborating with other business architects to apply shared business principles and common standards across their business units to integrate multiple multiple perspectives into a single enterprise-wide business framework. So that is what Kit is working on when she's not here with us in IPD. Just a little bit of work. I wanted to, before Kit starts, also do a call. Kit will be presenting again in December, but following that, we're into 2024 already. And we will be looking for new expert insights presenters. And there's a topic that I've heard many of you mention to me. So I'm assuming interest. And that topic I'm calling the leadership sweep. So a new leader comes in, a president, a CFO, a top administrator, if you're in public sector, and they kind of sweep out all the other leaders or initiatives. So maybe you're a project manager and suddenly your project is canceled. Maybe your department is reorganized and you find yourself doing something new. I've had training grants through Minnesota Job Skills Partnership that are worth $500,000 to a company, and the new person comes in and says, "Oh no, we don't need training," and that goes away. And the idea is the topic I think I'm interested in, and what I'm hearing people talk about is how do you sustain business architecture through a leadership suite? Because business architecture is about strategy and gaps. And so you're on a path and then that path is gone. So if you don't have to be an expert in this. I don't know if anyone is, but Kit and I discussed the word insider. Maybe you have some inside information. Maybe you have experience in going through this and you have some lessons learned that you can share with the group. Or perhaps you know somebody who's been through it and survived it, or even if you didn't survive it, oftentimes, we learn more from when things don't go well than when they go well. So anyway, I think it would be really interesting to have some people speak to that in our 2024 Expert Insights lineup. So ask around and all they got to do is email me and let me know they're interested. And then it's really, Kit's going to tell you how painless it is to not only get recruited for Expert Insights, but to deliver one. Right, Kit? Right? Okay, thank you. All right. So back to Kit. Today's topic is value. I was rereading it and I feel like I should be Oprah, like, customers, you have value. Business, you have value. Clients, you have value. Everybody's got value. And so that's what Kit will be talking to you about today. Kit is open to taking questions through Q&A if you like to be more anonymous, or through chat. I will be monitoring both of those, so we'll try to insert your questions when they relate to the part of the presentation that Kit is talking about. So with that, I am going to mute and be quiet and turn you over to Kit.
Thank you, Beth. Hi, everybody. My name is Kit. I've been working at the Department of Human Services for like 2.5+ years at this point. Prior to that, my background was with Whole Foods Market. I worked there for over a decade, and I was drawn to public service, and I want to talk a little bit about public service as a really fascinating place to explore value. We'll get into that in the conversation. Some objectives of this course today. First, we're going to start with some basics, defining the role that value streams play within the 10 domains of business architecture. Recognize and understand the differences between 3 common types of value maps. Value streams, the way that we practice them in business architecture. Lean value streams, which are arguably more common these days as agile methodologies that use them have really swept the transformation landscape. And customer journeys, which are also really taking off in popularity as service design becomes a really important part of transformation and design activities. Next, we'll define the parts of a value stream and how they're structured and navigated. Then we'll shift from the abstract or shift from the academic into the concrete and talk about how to identify an organization's core customer and value propositions using Minnesota's Department of Human Services as an example, and demonstrate a real-life example of a value stream by walking through one from the Department of Human Services together. Finally, we'll revisit those 3 common types of value maps: architectural value streams, lean value streams, and customer journeys, and demonstrate how they relate to each other. Because in any transformation, the real power comes from cross-disciplinary or cross-functional collaboration. And one of the reasons that I'm drawn to business architecture is for the very reason that it provides an alignment framework to allow different disciplines to work together and to scope responsibilities so that we can collaborate meaningfully. With that, let's dive in. Business architecture is a practice of mapping organizations, and the scope of business architecture is the scope of the business that it's mapping. And what is the scope of the business? By business architecture standards. And when I talk about business architecture standards, I'm talking about some industry standards. The specific ones that I align to in my work are the BISBOC, that's the business architecture body of knowledge that's maintained by the Business Architecture Guild. And by nature of aligning with BISBOC, that also brings us into alignment with TOGAF, the Open Group Architectural Framework, which has the benefit of facilitating connections between business architecture and the other IT-focused aspects of enterprise architecture. So by business architecture standards, the business consists of these 10 domains. Each of them offers a different perspective of an organization. And as a business architect, it's our job to consult with subject matter experts throughout the organization and create blueprints that show details that are critical to each domain and to map how those domains fit with the other domains. Simplifying this a little bit, you'll notice there's a core wheel there of 4 of the domains that are in an inner circle and 6 that are in an outer circle. The simply put version of this is that an organization performs capabilities using information to provide value. Those are the core domains of business architecture, the most stable views of an organization. One of the merits of using business architecture is that it helps organizations maintain stability, even in the face of significant transformation. So where I work, we're talking right now about transforming our operating model and being able to have continuity between the current state and the desired future state as this disruptive wave of innovation helps us carry forward into the better future we imagine. We need some stability and some understanding of what we carry forward from the current state into the future and what we sunset along the way. Value streams in this are views of the organization in motion. Last time around here, we talked about capabilities, which are really views of an organization at rest. It's an inventory of all the abilities that an organization has. Value streams are where we take those capability building blocks and show how they fit together to produce things of intrinsic value for the stakeholders of an organization. Value itself, this is the BISBOC quote of it. They define it as the benefit that is derived by an organization's stakeholder while interacting with that organization, and point out that it is fundamental to everything that an organization does. The only reason an organization exists is that it provides value to one or more stakeholders. Now, a note on language. Stakeholder is a term that in our practice at DHS, we are replacing with the term key players because we've gotten feedback from the tribal nations that we work with that the term stakeholder has been used to systematically oppress them in the past, especially during the apportionment of reservation land. I've kept it in this presentation for the context here. It is one of the terms that is common when we talk about business architecture. And what we mean by it is anybody who interacts with an organization to get or exchange value with it. So it could be customers, partners, human resources, or staff that work within it. All of those are in that category of stakeholder. Within the context of business architecture, it's important to think of value in the most general sense of usefulness, advantage, benefit, or desirability, rather than a narrow accounting or financial perspective that defines value as being the material or monetary worth of something. Now, this is what I meant by public sector applications really have value at the focus of what we do, because our business model is more of a mission model. We're creating value, but we're not necessarily creating profit. So the art is slightly different in practice here than it would be at a for-profit corporation. Non-monetary examples of value in the for-profit or business world could include things like the successful delivery of services that have been requested, resolving a client's problem in a timely manner, or gaining access to up-to-date information in order to make business decisions. Value mapping encompasses a few different, like a variety of value-focused analytical techniques that help organizations better understand how they exchange value with their stakeholders. And we do this value mapping to help identify opportunities to improve continuously the way that we create and deliver value. And we, in that analytical process, create formal value maps to make explicit that which is implicit about how a business operates. And there are a few common types of value maps. The one that we're going to be talking about today is what I know as value streams. You can think of these two as architectural value streams. This is the standard method by which to map value creation and delivery from the perspective of the stakeholder seeking the value from beginning to end. And important about architectural value streams is that a single value stream should represent all the ways that an organization delivers a single value proposition. Another common type of value map are lean value streams. These are maps that represent specific business processes, often more than one, undertaken to produce some instance of value, typically either the creation of it in the first place or the delivery of it to the end consumer once it is created. And they display the critical steps of all the processes involved and the time taken between and by each step. So these are at a more concrete level than the more abstract architectural value streams that we're going to talk more about today. In order to make sure that those architectural value streams represent all the different ways that an organization might realize a value proposition, they are at a more abstract level. Lean value streams include not just the value creation steps, but the non-value creation steps as well, or what we would maybe think of as non-functional requirements. Where I work at the Department of Human Services, you may need multiple lean value streams to represent all the different ways that we might get access to benefits for somebody. So we operate with multiple different programs, whether it's SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, medical assistance or healthcare coverage, housing assistance, childcare assistance, and each one of those has their own unique process, and it might take different amounts of time for each step in there. So a critical need for us is the ability to align those processes and understand how they operate together so we can be continuously improving all of those different processes in conjunction towards a shared desired future state. Another common type of value map is customer journeys. These are much more experience-based. So, and apologies for how tiny I know this is on your screen, but you can kind of see across the top, there are different steps that a customer must go through to get to their desired value. They've got goals along the way. And then here, where you see this kind of linear progression through time of their experience, the line itself is their journey. The dots are moments, and the grid that they're plotted on has time on one, like moving forward on one axis, and their emotional experience on the other axis. So the higher the dot is, the more satisfying or pleasing the experience was, and the further down it is, the more frustrating or convoluted it might have been. So this is the end-to-end perspective of a person or persona. A persona would represent a group of people with a sort of archetypal persona to represent that group, following their interactions with an organization and their impressions of those interactions along the way. Like lean value streams, customer journey maps can also be cross-mapped to architectural value streams. Getting back into the architectural part of the world, value streams in our business architecture context are a structured way to represent how an organization creates or delivers value, represented here by the light bulb, to its stakeholder, centering the stakeholder's perspective. Mapping a value stream starts by identifying the value proposition, or the thing that that stakeholder wants intrinsically that the organization can provide. Once we know what that value proposition is and who stands to benefit from it, that's the viewpoint stakeholder of the value stream. Other terms for this person include core customer or end user. And again, at DHS, we're right now using the language of key player. So they would be the viewpoint key player. When the organization becomes aware of a person's desire to get something of value from it, that's what triggers a value stream that works to deliver the value that they seek. Within value streams, it's very rare for somebody to just have a thing they want and have a single step to get it. Instead, what we do is we map the stages along the way. And those are, while in the picture, we're seeing them as linear, it's important to know that they could work in parallel. People could experience them in different orders. You might return to one a few times. Either way, each of these stages incrementally creates and adds value items from one stage to the next until they accrue into the overall desired value proposition. Each of these value stages has certain characteristics about it. They all have their own name. They each have a brief description that explains their purpose and what business activities go into it. And every stage has one-to-many participating stakeholders. These are the key players who receive measurable value from the value stream stage or who contribute to creating or delivering that value. And every stage serves to produce one or more specific value items. These are the incremental value that's created or delivered to the participating stakeholders in this value stage, and which, taken together, accrue into the broader value proposition over time. Finally, every stage has entrance and exit criteria, and these describe the business logic that guides the unique path that a person will take through the value stream based on their specific circumstances. The entrance criteria is what we can see, like the starting condition or state change that either triggers the value stream stage or enables it to be activated. And the exit criteria is the observable outcomes that let us know the value items that this stage works to accomplish have been successfully created or delivered. And we can exit this stage and progress to whatever entrance criteria we now meet that allows us to proceed. So that's the academic framework that we're going in with. That is the sort of formal structure that we use to represent a value stream consistently. And now we're going to shift over to a real world example to see that illustrated in real life. The Department of Human Services for Minnesota, where I work, has a mission and some core values. The mission statement is that Minnesota Department of Human Services, working with many others, helps people meet their basic needs so they can live in dignity and achieve their highest potential. That's actually doing dual duty. It's got both our mission, we help people meet their basic needs, that's what we do, and purpose, so that Minnesotans can live in dignity and achieve their highest potential. That's why we do it. The core values talk about how we operate. So when we're not centering profit, what are the things that we're centering? These are the things that are important to take account of when we're mapping the value exchanges of an organization. What is valued and by whom? So our mission tells you what we do, and our values inform how we operate and the moral compass we use for achieving success. So now we're going to walk through a value stream. First, we need to identify the core customer. So going back to our mission statement, we can see that we help people meet their basic needs. And that helps us understand that our most core customer at the Department of Human Services, the logical place to start, are Minnesotans with unmet basic needs. So having identified our core customer and having learned that we start by identifying a thing that person wants that we can provide, we seek that intersection. What is a value proposition that our customer wants that we can help them get? In our case, that value proposition that we're starting with today is getting access to government benefits. Minnesota Department of Human Services oversees a cluster of public assistance programs, some that we've inherited from the federal government, some that are state funded, and our counties and tribal nations also administer more local programs that we want to integrate the way that we provide services with those service agencies so that people have a consistent experience throughout. So we have our core customer, a Minnesotan with unmet needs, and the value proposition that we want them to accomplish, getting access to government benefits. Our first stage, we know we need a title and description. So in this case, it is, actually, I'm going to pause real quick and say what we are doing at the Department of Human Services is all in service of iterative transformation. So as we walk through this, know that we're looking at a snapshot in time. And as we continuously learn and improve, the way that we architect this may change. As we get out into the field and start using these things to enact real world change, what we learn from that experience is going to have an impact as the architecture itself iterates based on the validation or challenge that we experience with it in real life. So know that this is a window in time and it's a thing that is going to be in flux. That said, right now we're starting with front door, find out where to go for help. And the value items that somebody would achieve in this stage are awareness of the benefits that are available to Minnesotans in need and awareness of where and how to initiate a request to gain access to them. The entrance criteria would be that a person interacts with one of the channels that we use for outreach, and the exit criteria is that they've initiated a request for benefits. That will help them move on to the next stage of navigating and applying. The value items, and the description there is identify the desired benefits and submit or update a request. In this stage, value items include that people in need receive targeted application and renewal guidance based on their unique preferences and needs, and the Human Service System of Minnesota accepts their request for benefits. A request is also matched with the information that a person provides about themselves and their consent for that information to be used by us to determine their eligibility for benefits. They own the data that we collect about them, and it is only with their consent that we can collect and use it. Finally, a person's request is matched with their contact information and permission to contact them regarding their request. This enables our ability to route it to the correct service agency for where they live or if they're enrolled in a tribal nation, and allows the caseworkers who will be following up to know how to get back in contact with them in the first place. The entrance criteria is that they've initiated a request for benefits, and the exit criteria is that the request, their information, and their consent are all submitted. That helps us move on to the next stage, which is getting notifications. This is the place where they can get informed of updates and actions needed along the way. And the value items are that people are notified when the state of their request or benefits plan changes. People are notified if there are actions they must take to either establish or maintain access to the benefits they've requested, and that they're notified of updates that impact them. If there is a policy change to one of the programs that they are applying for or enrolled in, they will need to be notified of those changes if it's going to impact them. So this is the stage where that value would be conferred. The entrance criteria for this one is that a request, contact information, and consent to contact are all current, and there's a message active. And the exit criteria is that that active message has either been resolved or timed out. The next stage is eligibility finding. This is where people receive eligibility findings for the benefits they have requested. The value item here is that the applicant receives an official finding that rules whether or not they are eligible for the benefits they've requested. The entrance criteria here is that the request, participant information, and participant consent agreement have all been submitted. And the exit criteria is that the eligibility finding has been reached and messaged. So here I'll brief interlude. Notice that now we have a message. There's a message active. So even though in our walkthrough, we're going to progress linearly, note that in value stream navigation, this would actually bump us back to the previous stage so that they can be informed that they have been found eligible or not. Once someone has been found eligible, and actually I should speak to that, if they are not found eligible, that's where the value stream ends. They do not accomplish their end value proposition. Because if we think back to that Venn diagram, what does a person want and what can we as an organization provide? We are limited in our current state by the policies of the programs that we oversee. So if somebody has applied for something that they are not eligible for, we cannot allow them access to those benefits without jeopardizing our funding for that program. So at that point, the person would drop out of the value stream having not accomplished the value proposition. But we're going to follow the happy path and assume that this person has been found eligible for the benefits that they requested. That moves us on to agree to terms. This is where they will know what benefits are covered and what rules they have to meet to stay eligible for them. The value item in this stage is that people understand what their specific benefits plan entails, what benefits they're entitled to receive, what requirements they're obligated to meet to sustain access to these benefits, and what provider sources are authorized for them to receive benefits from. The entrance criteria for this stage is that a positive eligibility finding has been reached, and the exit criteria is that that benefits plan has been matched with this person and finalized or renewed. That brings us to the final stage, maintain enrollment. This is where people monitor their enrollment period and information about their benefits. Value items here include people in need gain or maintain access to benefits. All necessary parties are informed of the person's enrollment. People can monitor their enrollment period, their benefits information and usage, and any upcoming deadlines. And people can manage their personal and contact information. The entrance criteria here is that they've got an individualized benefit plan finalized. And the exit criteria is that their benefit plan is expired or canceled. So that gives us the total end-to-end perspective of a Minnesotan with unmet needs getting access to government benefits through the Human Service System of Minnesota. I'll pause there for a second before we head into the next section to see if there are any questions at this point along the way. A value stream consists of stages and value items. Yeah, that's right. Those are two of the things that it consists of. So in this picture that we're looking at, each of these chevrons represents a value stage, and each one of those value stages has one-to-many value items that are created and delivered in that stage. It also consists of entrance and exit criteria and a title and description so that we can name them and describe the activities that go into each one. All right. So once you've mapped a value stream, there are some logical next steps. One that I did not think to put on here, but if you think back to the previous course from last month, we talked a lot about capabilities. One of the most powerful ways that you can use a value stream is by cross-mapping each stage to the abilities a business needs to have to realize the activities involved in it. So the missing slide here is next steps, cross-map value stream stages to capabilities. It's also critical to identify parallel value streams, especially in situations like in public service, where there are multiple perspectives involved in value creation and delivery. To improve the constituent experience of requesting benefits and receiving a timely eligibility determination, we, as the Minnesota Department of Human Services, also need to focus on making the experience that eligibility workers at county and tribal service agencies have processing those requests for benefits. By focus on the constituent experience alone, we would only be able to optimize that experience so far. The constituent would still need to wait for an eligibility finding that's not done by us at DHS, but by our partners in the human service system at service agencies and community organizations. So those eligibility workers rely on state-run applications and databases that DHS owns to conduct their work. And that work is time-consuming and includes a lot of manual data entry and copying information from one place to another. So these eligibility workers represent internal customers, and their end-to-end experience of processing a request for benefits from when a constituent submits the request to when the worker reaches a finding and communicates it represents a value perspective of its own. For our integrated service delivery product office, one of the things that we're needing to do is map how these two value streams run in parallel and what the connections are between the two that can help both of them run more smoothly and better together.
Say, Kit,
Yes.
we do have a question in the Q&A, and this may be the perfect slide to answer it, or part of me thinks we may have to say to this person, join us next month or join us in December. So the question is, what is the connection between capabilities and value items?
Yeah, the capabilities are the abilities that a business has that allows them to create value items. So I encourage this person to go back and watch the one from last time, because we use at the end of that an example of request routing as a capability that enables us to move a request from basically from the participant's experience into the service agency's experience. So in order to be able to do that, there are capabilities that we need to use to know who to match. Like for this person, what is the right service agency to handle that request? Once we know that, how do we get that request to that service agency reliably and securely? Because it's containing a lot of confidential personal information about the person. And we have some information management capabilities that need to securely transmit that data to the appropriate party along the way. So, and again, the cross mapping between a value stream stage and the capabilities that enable it shows us what capabilities are necessary to produce the value items that that value stream stage creates or delivers. I'll move on to another next step is mapping processes to value streams. So let's recall back to those three common types of value mapping that we talked about. The architectural stuff that we're spending most of our time on, customer journeys, and lean value streams. And recall that lean value streams focus on the concrete actions, both value creating and non-value creating, that are required to create or deliver a value proposition. One reason that the service agency worker, the people who are processing these requests for benefits and producing the eligibility findings, one reason that their experience is complicated and time consuming is that different benefit programs have different process requirements or non-value creating requirements or non-functional requirements. And many of those requirements are intended to protect perspectives outside of the constituents who are directly requesting benefits or the workers who are processing the benefits. Oftentimes, they're intended to safeguard the use of public funds so that funds earmarked for any given program are only spent helping people who meet the specific population needs that those funds are earmarked for. That could also roll in the taxpayer perspective of wanting to know that their tax dollars are being spent as dictated by their elected officials. These statutory but non-functional requirements vary from program to program. They're often not even made by the same bodies of people. So even within a single application form, in this case, our combined application form, which its value proposition is that it offers a constituent a single way to request these 7 different programs. Even within a single application form, eligibility workers may have to follow multiple different processes to complete a single customer request for multiple benefit programs. Understanding how those processes vary in accomplishing the same results will help us understand how to create a product flexible enough to help eligibility workers reach eligibility findings faster and with more ease, regardless of which benefits programs have been requested. And I'll put in a plug here for the BizBoc. I mentioned it once before. This is the business architecture body of knowledge that's maintained by the Business Architecture Guild. They have a section 3.6 about business architecture and Lean Six Sigma. And that section goes deeper into the nitty-gritty of how to cross-map lean value streams with architectural value streams. The third type of common value mapping that we talked about earlier are customer journey maps. And when we center the lived experience of a specific person or map the experience of a group of people represented by a user experience persona, we can cross-map their experience back to the value stream stages that represent each moment in their journey and better understand the factors at play in creating pain points that they experience. This allows us to apply the things we learn about where different people experience challenge in our current state to a common framework and better understand where to focus our attention to have the biggest overall impact improving people's experiences, especially in a situation of resource scarcity where we need to prioritize where we can do the best good. Customer journeys can highlight where and why people have to re-enter or repeat the same stage of a value stream multiple times, and help our product owners understand how they can improve the way that we're delivering value to simplify our customers' lives. For instance, if a constituent submits if a constituent submits a request for benefits that the eligibility worker is going to need more information than they've supplied in order to process it, that constituent may be notified of this, so that's receive notification, and have to submit information 1 to many additional times back to navigate and apply before they can be found eligible and move on to agreeing to terms. If we can make it easier for them to understand what is needed or identify what we'll need down the road and seek it from other sources, like, do we actually have access to the information about this person that we need from other systems that we can gain access to, like tax information or other benefit programs that they're a part of already? Do we need to ask them for that information again? And that can help us streamline their experience by reducing the number of moments they need to spend returning to submit information again. And I'll put in another plug here for the BizBoc. There is another section in it, 3.13, Business Architecture and Customer Experience Design. And that delves deeper into the nitty-gritty of how to cross-map these concepts. And that brings us to the end of the material I've prepared for today. Would love to field any questions.
While we're waiting for questions, I should have done a big announcement earlier. Kit and I talked about it, and then I didn't write it down. So as you think about joining us for the virtual class this January, please know that Kit is joining our instructor team. So we have for years used business architects who are part of Fortune 500 companies to teach the course. And I am really excited to be adding Kit as a public sector state agency person into the course, because we do have quite a few public sector people that go through, and there's just the concepts just need a little bit of a shift sometimes to be meaningful to public sector, since we are not as revenue driven, we are funded driven.
I'll say, like, having learned the art in a Fortune 500 company, I find it more interesting at the state.
More interesting.
Yes.
It's a lovely phrase. And while I'm talking, Kit, if you want to look at the Q&A, there's a question that's popped up.
It looks like there's a question in progress.
Yep. So we're excited to be welcoming Kit to our instructor team and the dynamics that will create. And also a hearty congratulations to Kit, who has passed her CBA. For the Business Architecture Guild and is a certified business architect like our other instructors. So it looks like there's a couple questions for you to field, Kit.
Yep. So we've got a question in progress that I can tackle in parts. Are these statements true? And the first one is, a single customer may be served via several value streams. Yes, correct. That brings us back to that parallel value streams idea. One of the examples that I've found really helpful wrapping my own mind about this is the idea of a customer taking a trip, and their value stream, take a trip, is running along here. And if they happen to be somebody who's going somewhere and they want to check a bag, their bag is going to go on a whole different journey. They're still the benefiting stakeholder. They're initiating it when they check their bag. And then their bag goes on this send shipment value stream. It doesn't ride along with them. It has its own journey. But at the end of the day, it needs to reconnect with that person. So this person is benefiting from two value streams at the same time, as they're riding the plane, and their bag is riding the cargo space underneath. And those value streams, if they don't come back together, are not going to result in a satisfied customer. So if they are architected in ways that don't work well together, that's going to create a major friction point for the organization. Okay, so the next part of this question is this statement true? You may have several customers, and customer-specific value streams may intersect at one or more stages for multiple customers. Yes, I think I would agree with that. There's, and I'll get into like a little bit of a semantic distinction here. If I were to go to BizBoc orthodoxy, I would say, well, actually, a customer is only the real core customer or end user of an organization. But that gets incredibly murky, for instance, in public service. Like, yes, we know that like our core customer is constituents. That's who we're here for. That's who we serve. We serve the public. And along the way, we also like regulate industry whose perspectives need to be taken into account, because if an industry is overregulated, that's not going to benefit our end users. We also have, in our context at Minnesota, we have the state, and we also have our service agencies. And again, like, it's valuable for us to think of those not just as stakeholders, but as customers. They rely on things that we provide in order to be able to do their jobs. So BizBach orthodoxy is really useful in some contexts. And it's also really important to stay flexible with it and bring in some of the valuable learnings from agile methodologies and whatnot that expand the concept of customer to include internal users as well. So, so that's a kind of like a hedged response. But yes, absolutely. An organization has, if I just change the word to stakeholder, stakeholders also trigger value streams. So we can, if the person who triggers a value stream is a customer, yes, we have several customers. And as we saw in that example, uh, uh, in order for a person to proceed through their value stream, they rely on another value stream to enable one of those stages because somebody else has to process their request for benefits in order for them to proceed. So that's a big intersection of those value streams. We can also think about that take a trip example, because we also have a flight crew. So there may be hundreds of customers taking a trip for one instance of an execute route value stream that the flight crew goes on. And then there's this person is giving us an example. Facebook serves the needs of the 16-year-old kid, but the features of Facebook serves the needs of both the kid and the corporations that are monitoring the movements, interests, etc. of the kid. That's a interesting and timely example. I've just seen in the news that our Attorney General, Keith Ellison, in concert with a few other state attorneys general, has sued Meta, the owner of Facebook, because of the impact their product is having on the mental health of teenagers in those states. I think that's an interesting example of somewhere where a for-profit corporation is really like putting profit and profit creation and drawing paid customers of their platform, like advertisers, at the detriment of its core customers' needs, the people who use the product to connect with other people. So that's a great example of somewhere where looking at a value exchange framework could help us understand the impact that optimizing advertisers' experience is having detriment to some other customers of the platform.
Right. We do have a question in chat as well. Are you able to see that, Kit?
Yep, here we go. Let's see. Okay, scenario. To get a license, person has to also pay a fee before the license is issued. Okay. Question. How do we reflect the arranged license value stream and settle financial accounts value stream together? Just underneath one another or question mark? Great question. This is exactly so remember when I mentioned this is a moment in time and things are probably going to change? I'm going to cheat a little bit and instead of answering your question, address it through the example that we looked at together. We started by mapping the end-to-end experience of somebody getting access to benefits, but that's not the end of their journey. Just being enrolled in a benefits program doesn't mean that you're actually getting human services yet. So if we want to map the real end-to-end perspective of somebody getting the, like, benefiting from the core mission of our company, we also need to map the experience of use benefits to receive human services, which is one of our next steps. In the meantime, if you think back to the starting stage of this value stream, the find the front door, those are activities that we don't want to repeat in two different places. That would mean that if we have product teams working to optimize those, they might not have insight into what each other are doing if they're operating in different architectural places. And meanwhile, they're working on the same set of capabilities, which if we're looking to optimize the way that we spend resources, that's a bad business decision. So as we mature from iterative exploration, we are likely to re-architect this to narrow the view that get access to benefits includes, starting with applying and ending with being enrolled. And all of the sort of maintain enrollment stuff, that has impacts on receiving services too. Like if somebody uses their SNAP, their EBT card to buy groceries, once they have the card in their hand, they're done getting access to benefits. They've got the benefits, and then they need to go use those benefits to get nutritious food. But would we want them to have two separate logins? One where they can see the transactions that they've done with their card, where they've received human services by using benefits, and a second account where they can see their enrollment in the program that facilitates that? No, that's not good for the customer. So we're likely to break it up so that we have bookends of find the front door in the first place. So wherever you are in your journey, we can support you and get you to the right stage for the next steps for you. And then the other value stream at the end of maintain my case, manage my case, where you can review all of the information that we have about you, regardless of whether it's in service of getting access to benefits in the first place, maintaining those benefits once you've gotten them, or using them to receive human services after you've been found eligible. So in the example of arranging a license and settling financial accounts, that's another place where I suspect you'll wind up with two value streams running in parallel, where you'll have a stage of arranged license that might be something like, make payment. And you can almost think of like the payment that you're making as the bag that goes on the send shipment stream. So it's riding its own journey that links back to yours. So mapping those parallels of different value streams that enable or depend on each other is a critical aspect, a more value chain view of an organization that helps us manage enterprise resources wisely and well.
Thank you, Kit. We're almost out of time. I'm going to share my screen here so that hopefully you are seeing. So in November, our Expert Insights is going to be on vacation. It's taking a week off for Thanksgiving. So we won't be hosting anything in November, but Kit will be back with us in December for the third and last part of her of this series. And I did put a link to session 1 in the chat. So if you want to grab that before you go, this session is also recorded and will eventually, takes us a couple weeks to get it online. So you'd have access to the first 2. You can share those with colleagues, or if you need to go back and hear something again, you'll have access to them in that way to see examples and hear those. You asked excellent questions today. So thank you for for engaging with us in this. I'm not seeing any final questions come in, so I think we will sign off and see you all the next time.
Thanks so much, everybody. Bye-bye.